Hello beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. So today I was actually, excuse me, today I was actually going through a couple of things. I have to fix my bangs here. And one of them included research. And this is a topic that we don't necessarily talk about as music therapists. However, we should talk about it. So that's why I'm going to talk about it, because it's one of those, those topics that nobody talks about. And I always dive into those, right? So anyway, I'm kind of going through here on my computer a couple of physicians, laboratories I want to work in. Yes, this isn't music therapy related. It looked like there was a piece of paper, but it's actually the lamp. Yes, this isn't music therapy related. However, research is research. Everyone does research, believe it or not. I learned that in my MBA program that, there are these people that are like crazy about like business management and finance research, and they go like crazy over it. I didn't know that I knew that research about the financial market goes on, like it's been going on for a while now. I just didn't know how passionate some people got to it. Music therapy research is one of those things that happens also, and I understand that people get very passionate about music therapy research. However, me, beautiful, quirky me, is actually passionate about neuroscience, cell molecular, stem cell, all that good stuff. I'm more interested in the scientific component behind research, especially how it pertains to the brain. And I don't know about you guys, but I live near a really big city, and there's like tens of thousands of research labs around in this area. There's also a lot of pharmaceutical labs in this area too, and that's a field that I've thought about diving into, but alas, I didn't. I wasn't very interested in it, but more or less, you can always look into pharmaceutical research if that's something that you're kind of interested in. I don't really know if music therapists and pharmacists like go hand in hand, but my best friend from when I was little, she's a pharmacist. My aunt, she's a pharmacist. My cousin, she's a pharmacist. So I do have a lot of pharmacists in my family, but I don't know, it wasn't necessarily my niche. Moreover, though, there are tens of thousands of labs, okay, so in this particular area that I'm living in. So it makes it very difficult to find a job or do research or be active, right? And I'm talking from myself as a professional. We're going to get into doing research as a student in a little bit. So, there's like, I don't know, 2,000 labs. It's ridiculous in a 20-mile radius. I checked on LinkedIn. That's what they told me. And Google, they're all connected. So anyway, so I had to kind of narrow it down. What kind of research did I want to do? And like, I didn't necessarily, I do want to do music therapy research, don't get me wrong, but it's kind of the same thing with like teaching music lessons. I want to get experience working in a research lab. How is it run? What goes on? How is it structured? And then take that and then apply it to a personal research project or a music therapy collab research project. But right now, like, I don't really have a baseline to kind of generate my own sort of research study. So I gotta go with, one that's already established. And of course, I'm setting the bar real high, because why not? Like, you don't, as a music therapist, it's hard to get hired as a researcher, because that's not really like our thing. We are more implementation, we are more direct care. But music therapy research is very, very important. Any research in general is very important. So if you're having issues getting into research, always volunteer as a volunteer, an assistant, someone that picks up the pieces. I mean, my favorite volunteering story that my father actually told me, I don't remember the guy's name, but it was this guy, and he was working in a radio broadcast place. And the man who actually spoke in the microphone, like, went to go, I don't know, get a drink of water or something. And then the janitor comes over and he starts speaking in the microphone, and he starts, like, rallying up the crowd and being the announcer of the radio channel. And the people actually ended up liking the janitor better than the actual person who was running the radio show. But the story that I'm trying to say is that this guy became a radio announcer he was a janitor first. He got into the culture. He was in the field, and then he became a radio announcer. So sometimes you have to take a step down and be a volunteer in a lab or an assistant in a lab and not necessarily get paid before you jump in and get paid for your services. In this particular area that I'm living in, everybody who's anybody does research. And some people that you have to compete against are already doctors, already have their PhDs, already, like, they're doing a fellowship and they want to do some research, you know. So we got some high level people, and I've accomplished a lot in my life. I really have. I say my biggest accomplishment in the research realm was making out in a cell molecular lab. And that's not something I want to put on my resume. So, diving in here. How I broke this down. So everything is neurology focused, okay? And when I go under the category neurology on here, I'm not going to tell you what hospital or anything or any of these people's names because HIPAA, you know. But when I go under neurology at this particular hospital that I am interested in doing research at, I'll be honest, they have a lot of programs for students. They have a lot of programs for entry level. It's actually, not that it's like easy to get hired, but there's a lot of positions here. So if I go into neurology research, which it just took me to the page. So let me do neurology research. All this stuff is going to come up. Like, for example, they do a lot of older adults, dementia, Alzheimer's. There's a couple on here, ALS. I am so bad pronouncing things, just in general. So that's why I'm just going to say ALS. They have this one. Oh, that's a fellowship. Neurocritical care. That's really interesting, by the way, neurocritical care, when somebody comes in from a stroke and they need to, like, be on it as a team. Oh, so lovely. But let me just read a couple of these for you. So they have specialized patient care. They have Parkinson's disease. They have neurological diseases. They have cognitive behavioral. They have infectious diseases, brain tumors. You know, the list goes on and on. Children. So since I have a lot to choose from, I just, like, kind of break it down. And my goal of research is going to be different than your goal of research. So my goal of doing research, it's not to get my name in flashing lights, unfortunately. My goal is to actually take what I've learned in research and apply it to my world, my healthcare, my job, my career. So looking this over, we'll take children, for example. There's actually a children's hospital down the street, and obviously they service children as well and do research studies. But the thing is that, like, children, researching children, doing behavioral cognitive therapy with children, that's great and that's really interesting, but I don't want to work with kids. And I'm open to shadowing. I'm open to like checking it out. Maybe I'll change my mind. But like as of right now, I'm not necessarily interested in working with kids on a neurological, behavioral, cognitive approach. That's just me. Infectious diseases. I've thought about diving into infectious diseases, but then I'd have to like do all this school all over again. I just thought about it because like I'm a germaphobe, so I figured it would be appropriate. But so infectious diseases, again, like, not that it's interesting, but what do I do? There's so much in terms of infectious diseases, and they always change. And I stay up to date with like all the certifications and the CDC, but it really depends on the facility. Like, are you long-term? Are you acute? Are you dental? Are you medical? What department are you in? Like, there's so many different variables, and there's only like really 1 or 2 labs that focus in infectious diseases in like the neurological unit. So that might not necessarily be a good one for me. But moving on, so there's Alzheimer's dementia, right? And there's a million Alzheimer's dementias. Now, that could potentially be great, right? Because like that's where the world is heading. We're going to have an increased population in patients living in nursing homes. Music therapy is going to become wonderful in the sense of Alzheimer's and dementia. And if I wanted to move permanently to Florida or Delaware or Maryland or wherever the people are going to retire now, going into a neurological lab specifically for older adults would be beneficial for me because like that's the field that I want to work in. But, and again, I'm open to shadowing, I'm open to research, I'm open to like checking it out again, you know, but I already worked with kids. I worked with older adults, like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's patients. I worked with them more than children, if you look at the clinical experience. And it wasn't for me. I partially wonder if when I settle down with a family, maybe I'll want to like have older adults. But I hated it. I really hated working with older adults. Like I couldn't take it. I don't know what it was. It just wasn't my niche. Hospice, on the other hand, I was perfect. That was great. But like older adults, Alzheimer's, dementia, like it just wasn't my thing. But I'll give it a try, you know, because like I tried it the first time. I actually really liked it. I liked the medical approach. I just didn't like working in that field. That's when I started to be like, I don't really like it, but I'll give it a try again, you know. I'm open to trying pediatrics. I'm open to trying older adults. I'm open to doing a hospice. I did actually really enjoy. But the one population that I love and I want to work with for the rest of my life is, of course, acquired brain injury. And when I say acquired brain injury, I do mean adults with acquired brain injury. So anybody between the ages of 25 and 65, that is my favorite population to work with. And there's a significant amount of labs here. I ended up going down to about 3 at this particular hospital, but a total of 10 in general that I was interested in within this area. And I think that that's fair, you know, 10 labs, like that's pretty fair. So I'm not going to say anybody's names, but I'm just going to read off, let's see. I'm just going to take the principal investigator because they're the one that's going to be in charge, right? So if I take the principal investigator, and usually they're, in this case, this is a hospital, so they're going to be a physician at the hospital. So this principal investigator usually, of course, I clicked on one that doesn't have any like bio about themselves. Okay, let's try this again. So I guess while I'm doing this, I could just state that this principal investigator is an MD and a PhD. So they're one of the ones that, oh wait, I can use their LinkedIn. Okay, I'm going to go on LinkedIn and see them on there. But this is one of those doctors. Now, I'm assuming that this person's very smart, no duh. Every doctor is brilliant, you know. But like, I'm assuming this guy is super smart because he did his medical school and his PhD. Clearly, I'm intimidated by this person. So, but the thing is that a lot of times these schools are it's hard to get into that kind of program. So that way you kind of know what you're looking into. Okay, so this guy, he did lots and lots of publications, of course, and he's board certified, of course. Okay, so let's see. So he actually got a bachelor's degree, a BA, which is kind of cool. I like when people get BAs. He got his PhD second, and then he went to med school. Or I guess he did do one of those combined programs because the years overlap. Never mind. And then he ended up doing clinical training at his medical school, and then he moved to Boston for a fellowship and then got a job. Okay. Sounds like a good plan. This guy, he also teaches at a college that I want to attend. And most importantly, his focus here is in hemorrhoids. I gotta learn how to like pronounce that word. I'm not very good at pronouncing because, you know, my mother says words weird because her parents didn't speak, like English was their second language. So she says words weird, and then I say words weird because I learned, you know. Anyway, but he studies brain aneurysms, and that's something that's super, super popular. That's something that I want to work with patients with brain aneurysms. He also teaches at a university that I want to attend. So there you go. I'm sold. He's going on the list. Next person that I wanted to talk to you guys about, another neurologist. He's just a doctor, MD. But the cool part about this person is that he's a neurologist and a psychiatrist. And I thought that was pretty darn cool because, like, psychiatry is one of those things that did interest me when I began my master's, when I started taking, you know, psychology, graduate psychology courses. And becoming a psychiatrist was something that interests me. And I would love to hear the difference. I would love to gain, you know, see what it's like from his perspective because he does both and because he's board certified in both. That would be pretty darn cool. Last but certainly not least, I'm only going through 3 people with you guys. And of course his thing isn't working, so we'll have to try his name. And this is like kind of how I go about like what research I want to do outside outside of school in the real world. Okay, well, anyway, the website isn't loading, so I'll just move on to my next topic about doing research in school. So the thing with like doing research outside of school, which is like what I'm doing right now at a hospital, has no association with my school. It is good in the sense that like it helps you develop grit. Like, you know, you're going outside your comfort zone. You don't have like a 10 billion positions underneath the same, like, you know, bubble. You're getting experience from other individuals in the field. So that's like a good part about going outside for research. You get to work with people who are physically practicing, and not that like they're not practicing at school, but their main focus when you do research at school, like in a research lab, I would just check out like who's the principal investigator. In this case, these principal investigators are doctors. They're seeing patients, and they're doing research. And that's kind of the environment that I want, because that's where I want to go. But like, if you do research in a school, you do like, you wonder, because they're doing research and they're teaching. So like, is that something that you want to do? Maybe it is, and then, okay, good. You're all set. You also you do have to read the bio of these individuals, because in my case, like, I like working with patients. I mean, I love research too, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to do research full time. I want to be like these people where they like work, they see patients, and then they're on the committee and they're in charge of a lab, or they're the principal investigator of the lab. So you want to check out, like at school, for example, if the individual is a teacher and they do publications, like, do they like teaching more, or do they like doing research more? The individuals that I talked to and observed that did research like in a college were more into research than they were into teaching. And that could happen in this case too. Like some like primary investigators, they could actually enjoy research more than actually being a doctor. It happens, but it's good to know ahead of time and to kind of get a background and see like, oh, did this person do like 5-7 years of research and then like started teaching, or was it a little mix of both? And then you can always ask, like, what got you into research? What got you into teaching? What got you into medicine? Whatever the case may be. But the main goal here is that you want to know, like, where do you want to go? Like, do you want to be, in terms of music therapy, do you want to be a music therapist who is on the board and who does the exams and who publishes, and then maybe teaches on the side? Do you want to be a music therapist who publishes all the time? Do you want to be a music therapist who, like, has a background in research but doesn't necessarily want to do research, like, moving forward? So you kind of want to answer those questions personally and then figure out what your answer is, and then try to find a lab and a primary investigator and a staff that sort of has the same mentality. The main reason why first of all, I'm not going through my school with this research because the hospital is not that far. The hospital that's not related to the school is not that far. It carries a lot of weight, and there's actually more research opportunities here than at my university in the field that I want to be in. Also, too, the primary investigators at the hospital are an asset to me. Like, I want to know how this individual, neurologist and psychiatrist, like, I want to know, I don't really have somebody like that at school doing research per se. I don't really have somebody who's doing research, like intensive hospital research, publications out the wazoo on like aneurysms, so that's important. Like, what I would be, you want to be just as picky with the lab and the research as they are with you, because like, you want to be able to benefit from it, you want to be able to learn, and you want to mentor. That's kind of the whole reason, especially if you're volunteering in a lab, like connections, mentorship. So you definitely want to find somebody that matches your niche and your goals, and maybe even accomplish them. So then that way you can be a better, faster, stronger individual. Okay, have a good day, everyone. Talk to you later. Bye.